Hi and good afternoon and welcome to Wellness Wednesday. I'm Teresa Jande and and this is True Heart Love Authentic. So I have the lovely Melanie with me today, but I'll get her to introduce herself and tell you what it is that you do. Melanie, over to you.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, my name is Melanie Blythe and I work with teams to help them enjoy work more, be better at what they do and appreciate each other more. So mainly in the business world and quite often with quite senior teams in mostly in sort of medium-sized companies with the CEO or the MD and their leadership team.
For purposes of our covert special as well, and to just kind of comment on what is happening globally, the global pandemic, and the what's happening with to a certain extent of that for Black Lives Matters. You said about the 5 things you do. How would you feel that would relate to the current circumstances while we're in lockdown? What would you recommend for people specifically for this time, who may not be able to maybe go for a spa maybe, or the stuff that they would normally do for their wellness? What would you recommend to people that are maybe at home?
I think gratitude is so ultimately key in what you do. So that appreciating what you do have, even if you can't have everything that you might have enjoyed before, but actually what is it, what now is it that you really enjoy, and tuning into those things where you can get that joy still, and it could be something completely different. It might be that you loved getting a massage, but now just lying on your back in the garden and relaxing can also give your body that sort of freedom and that relaxation, even if you're not maybe getting pampered or something. So there's sort of alternatives that you can do. I think also there is a lot going on, and we're all really concerned and also kind of wondering, what can we do to help? We certainly, a lot of people felt like that at the beginning when we were in lockdown. People made homemade masks, they helped neighbours, all this sort of thing. And now with Black Lives Matter and some of these things going on, where none of us have really been educated to understand the situation, and it's quite a complex thing really. And so in some ways it's actually about maybe reading and thinking more and talking less, I think, because we can have an opinion based on our perspective and what we know, but actually we probably don't know that much really in this situation. So kind of listening more to others, just asking people some questions, or going and researching a bit, reading a bit more, that sort of thing. I think not assuming that we have to have the answers or we have to have an opinion on it, but maybe using our time to actually educate ourselves a little bit more, gaining perspectives from different people, different environments, so that then maybe just helps us to build that slightly broader picture, and then we will be better people out of it.
I love that.
That's how I feel about it. Yeah,
having that dialogue, or even listening and educating yourself and asking ourselves our own how we are with things that that may not have even considered to us, because it may not have come up in our own lives, is a good way, and that's definitely worth pursuing, I think, for people.
Yeah,
well, we've got the time. This kind of leads on what's happening at the moment really. I've been asking people, and just to kind of get them to think and vision and make this to become the story and the new dialogue of where and what their hopes are of their own role with their businesses, and how that can affect humanity, and what they would love to see for humanity, whether that's personally or with their business, or just generally, rather than going back to the way things were before. But for a new future, what would you see that, and what would be your vision that you'd like to see?
The new future, I mean, my goodness, this is a big question. Isn't it?
I know.
I mean, there's a couple of parts for me on this. From a grand scale, environmental impact and the sustainability of the resources we have, and seeing how wonderful nature is looking this year and how many birds are in the skies and that kind of thing, how many beetles you see. I mean, just the little small changes we see around us. I really hope that our new normal will have a bit more of that in it and appreciate that. So that's kind of on the broader scale. And although, I mean, you can bring that right down to what you do every single person does day to day. But I think, you know, almost from a global perspective, I really hope there will be a catalyst for kind of nature, environment, sustainability in this whole pandemic. On a kind of more like, I don't know, local or more for me, I think, and what I've seen in quite a lot of organizations is people really putting out there quite a lot more around how they can care for people. You know, how people are coping with working while they're at home, while they're also homeschooling, while they're dealing with vulnerable relatives, while people they know might have contracted the illness. I mean, all those things are going on. And it's kind of like we're allowed to talk about what's happening in our personal lives. It's not this distinction about being a kind of work machine and then you've got this whole other life going on. I've always found quite difficult to handle. And I just think it's really brought it all to the fore. And I know some people are finding it hard. Some people still want to have those boundaries, and it is hard to mesh it because then your boundaries get a bit meshed and everything. But I think it's a really good thing. And I think if it means that more leaders will be happier to talk about people's personal lives as well and understand how it impacts what's going on in their work.
Bigger picture as such.
Yeah.
You aren't just, like you said, that work machine, and actually being that, speaking to every aspect of that balance, being that employee or whoever it is will be a better employee if they're a more rounded person and happier overall.
Yeah. And I think we were heading that way, you know, with sort of flexible working and so on, but I don't know, it's always from the sort of work perspective. And I want it to be a bit more from the holistic perspective. And for me it comes also to sort of I have a big desire to help teams, especially senior teams, think much more about diversity and inclusiveness. And I think you can do some diversity. You can make sure you have a diverse set of people from different cultures, different genders, maybe different backgrounds, different thinking styles. But actually the inclusiveness bit, I don't think you can do it well without including what makes up those people. And, you know,
this popped up for me in another group that I was speaking with. It's someone said about the differences, and again with racism, even that actually you want to not say, we are all equal, but actually, no, you're individuals too, and actually celebrating each of those cultural differences and because that will actually bring that to the fore, and actually that melting pot can create some amazing stuff in the businesses, I'd imagine.
Totally.
Different perspectives.
I mean, it is proven.
Yeah.
It's already proven through quite a lot of studies where you have much greater diversity, and including women at board level and so on. I mean, there's, you know, way more studies of companies that are more diverse, even just from a gender and race perspective, you know, and that's only just the sort of surface diversity really, you know, are way more successful. They're closer often to their consumer, to their customer. Because let's face it, in a lot of businesses, women make 80% of consumer decisions, basically, and yet at the top of most consumer companies are generally older men. I mean, how can you be connected to your consumer? And so, you know, just those simple things, let alone the fact that once you then understand how people tick and how you're going to get them to really feel passionate about their work, well, understand who they are as a person more. So that's my hope, is that this time will have actually helped people to see beyond that work machine to the people that exist, and particularly senior people too that I deal with, you know, who sometimes have been in work environment for many years, who have got quite a lot of pressure on them, and you know, and maybe are real go-getters and drivers, and you know, they sometimes just sort of don't always look at their whole community and their whole organization as a set of individuals. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I hope for. And then that impacts my business and my work too, because potentially more people think about it and want to do better at it, and are more open to having those conversations. Sometimes actually talking to people about what I do, I help make your team better. They kind of look at me and they're like, but isn't that my job as a leader? And wouldn't that mean that I'm saying I don't do a very good job if I have to bring someone in to help me? Whereas I think actually maybe this has helped people to reassess, actually it's okay, you don't have to be brilliant at everything, and maybe there's even more you could be doing to get the best out of people.
Yeah.
A long answer to a difficult question.
That's cool. So what have you got coming up at the moment? If there's companies out there that are saying I could really do with that, I'm open to that as well. How can people get hold of you as well? Tie those two in together.
Yeah. So yeah, I've got a couple of big projects going on at the moment. One of them where I'm helping a company actually redefine how it's going to develop its people over time, because the company and the industry are shifting such a lot. They're going to be looking at a new emphasis. So that's kind of more around sort of learning and development strategy for a whole organization. But also where I love working, and what I'm still doing with some clients, is working with senior teams. And particularly one of them I'm working with is really struggling with everybody being remote, how they can kind of continue to work really well together, knowing that actually this isn't going to come back quickly. And having the regular weekly face-to-face Monday morning meetings they used to have as a leadership team in a room together, probably we'll be lucky when we get that back next year, really. I mean, it's not going to happen quickly. So how they can do that remotely, how they can work together better remotely. And this particular company, I'm helping them on how they actually look at everything on their plate and prioritize together. Yeah. So, that's one area I'm working on with them. Others, I look at how you maybe redefine where you're heading, and therefore what your values and your kind of what you'll be doing with your people to help them on that journey too, because a lot of companies have had to change quite a lot. So anything to do with really how people are getting on, and how and how senior leaders are actually helping their organization move into the next phase. That's a very broad area, I guess, but I often have I can quite often have conversations with senior people or leaders in a company first to sort of uncover what is going on, and then see whether I can support them with where they want to head, or whether maybe it might be somebody different who could help them better. But almost just to have those open discussions. And yeah,
globally. Definitely need that globally as well, I think.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, and of course, teams being virtual now can be all over the world, of course. And yeah, for people to get a hold of me, well, I've got my company is called Phoenix Evolution, because it's all about evolution, not revolution, is what I say. And so I've got a website, which is phoenixevolution.co.uk, and people can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm quite active on there. So but I'm always open to have a conversation and just find out how people are doing, and how leaders are managing their teams, and then work out what it is that they could really help them. And if that might involve me, that might not, but always there to have that conversation.
It's definitely very, very relevant what you do to what is happening right now, and there's lots of people that are in need of that, I think, or might be becoming aware that they're in need of that, or to move forward. Yeah. So anyway, thank you for your time. Thank you to our viewers, and we will be back again next week. Thank you. Love and blessings from me here at Authentic Me.